Hey theater writers and lovers, I'm your host Noah Murderpearl, and you are listening to The Latest Draft, the pod celebrating the next generation of great musical theater writers. Today, we're featuring Pigeon Pizza Party by Spencer Robelen. A simple-minded pigeon discovers an entire pizza discarded in an alley, but when he tries to share it with the rest of his coop, complications ensue. Now, grab your playbill, your headphones, and take your seat because the show starts right now.
Oh my gosh! No freaking way! Oh, what a lucky night. Look at what I found. A perfect pepperoni pizza lying on the ground. Smell that cheesy crust. Look at all that meat. What's a lonely bird to do with such a gourmet treat? I know. I'll throw a pigeon pizza party, yeah, a pigeon pizza party. Not just any pizza party, but a pigeon pizza party. I'll start by calling Blanche and Tony, cause they both like pepperoni. Pigeon pizza party, pigeon pizza party. Coo, 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 wah, wah. Coo, 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 wah, wah.
What is it, Marty?
This better be important.
Yeah, we were just about to chase Bo the Bum and shit on him.
Stupid Bo.
Forget Bo the Bum. Look at what I found.
Jesus H. Bob.
Sweet Saint Francis of Assisi. Is that an entire pepperoni pizza?
Yeah, with cheese.
What should we eat, boys? The toppings or the crust?
I'd eat the whole damn thing myself until I gag and bust.
But this could feed our friends, maybe even more.
Wait, you want to share this thing with all the others?
Sure, we'll have a pigeon pizza party. Yeah, a pigeon pizza party. Look at me, I'm such a smarty with my pigeon pizza party. We haven't had a meal for weeks. We all deserve to stuff our beaks. Pigeon pizza party, pigeon pizza party. Coo, 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 wah, wah. Coo, 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 wah, wah.
Shut your trap, Marty. We can't share this with everyone.
Sure we can. If we divide the pizza among everyone in the coop, then each pigeon gets about, 1/5 of a slice.
Yeah, but, Marty, if only the three of us share it, then we each get an entire third of the whole pizza, huh?
Right, but that's an awful lot of pizza for just us.
Yeah, but it'll hold us over until the humans start visiting the parks again.
But what about the rest of the coop? If we eat it all, they'll go hungry. Some of them might even die.
Marty, look, you're a nice guy, but you gotta start taking care of the most important pigeon in your life.
Who's that?
You!
Marty,
listen up. Don't be so absurd.
The world is like a giant nest.
Except it's Birdie Bird.
You gotta put yourself before the others in the coop.
Or else they'll screw you over thinking you're a nincompoop.
So I should just eat it all myself and not share it? Not even with you guys?
Well,
I mean,
we're already here, so...
might as well help you with it.
I don't know, guys. I still feel like...
A possum pizza party, yeah, a possum pizza party. Not just any pizza party, but a possum pizza. The fuck you think you're doing with our pizza?
Your pizza? What do you mean, your pizza?
What do you think I mean, boy brain? I found this pizza 10 minutes ago and brought my buddies back here to eat it with me. Yeah, we're hungry.
Yeah, they're hungry.
Wait, I'm hungry too.
Bullshit, Wormtail. Our buddy Marty has been here the whole time, haven't you, Marty?
Oh, wait, I think there's been some misunderstanding.
Like hell, he has. I may have stepped away for a bit, but I found that pizza first. Yeah, it's ours fair and square.
Yeah, it's us.
Oh, wait, is that pepperoni?
You can't call dibs on a pizza and then walk away from it.
Oh, guys, wait, please. Let's not get into
You
it.
snooze, you lose, Rhoda.
Listen, sweet bakes, if you guys don't scram, we're gonna rip at your feathers and stuff them so far up your ass that you'll have to shit out of your face!
Yeah, bitches.
Yeah, fuck your anatomy. You're wasting your time, fuzzball.
Get lost before we pick your eyes out and shit in your eye socket.
Wait, guys, wait. There's plenty to go around. Let's just share it.
Share this, you feathered fucks!
Get him, Blanche! Here, pack him in the dick! No, the other dick! Pack him in that dick!
Thank the Lord, bless my soul, a pizza in the street. After weeks of dumpster diving and begging in the park, I finally have some food to eat. But it's quite a lot of pizza, the kind that you should share. Oh, how I'd love to have a friend, but I can't find one anywhere.
Wait! Is that Bo the Bum?
So perhaps it's just for me to dine with Pigeon and Possum. Well, hello neighbors, join my pizza party. Wouldn't that be awesome?
He's stealing our pizza.
Get him!
Come here!
Why does this keep happening to me?
Crazy, stupid animal!
That'll teach him.
Yeah, fuck Bo the Bum.
Wait, you hate Bo the Bum too?
So do you?
Are you kidding? We spend every Saturday chasing him around the city and shitting on him.
Well, we spend every Sunday chasing him around the city, jumping out of trees to scare him.
That's brilliant.
Not as brilliant as shitting on him. Hell, if we could fly, I know we'd do that.
Well, I hate to admit it, but you're a lot more intimidating than we are.
Come on.
Why,
David,
you are so
Listen.
sweet. Look, it is so nice to meet other animals who hate Bo the Bum just as much as we do.
Well, maybe if you want, we could help you chase him on Sunday? If you also want to help us chase him on Saturday, you know? Maybe we could help each other out. What do you say?
You want to discuss it over a slice or two of pizza?
It's
a Pigeon Possum Pizza Party, Pigeon Possum Pizza Party.
Way to go!
You did it, buddy!
Pigeon Possum Pizza Party.
All came true. I got my wish, my friends, in this Italian dish.
Pigeon Possum Pizza Party, Pizza Party. Possum, 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 wah wah. Possum, 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 wah wah, wah wah, wah wah. Wah wah, yeah!
Fantastic. All right, everyone. I am your host, Noah Mutterpearl, and you are listening to The Latest Draft. I am here with Spencer Robelen, writer of The Pigeon Pizza Party. Spencer, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you feeling today?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm feeling great.
Oh, well, it's an absolute pleasure. So one of my favorite things about doing this show is that as the diversity of pieces that we get, we've had rom-coms, coming-of-age stories, but New York City pigeon possum gang story, not that frequent, to be honest. But that's what was so exciting about listening to your piece. So kind of walk me through how this came to you. Do you have an affinity for pigeons?
Doesn't every New Yorker have an affinity for pigeons?
Yeah.
At least after your first year of being here. No, I think the idea came to me when I was walking down the street or around Washington Square Park, and there was a pizza box that was open with a bunch of slices in and out of it, and just a whole crowd of pigeons that were crowded around it, fighting over these abandoned pizza slices. And I just looked at it and thought, oh wow, it's a pigeon pizza party. And I thought, oh wait, that's great. I think that's a short musical right there. So I think that's where the idea came from. The possums, I think, were added later to just kind of like take it up a notch, as well as the poor innocent homeless person who gets wrapped up in the shenanigans. But yeah, I think that's where it started. So I guess you could say based on a true story.
Oh, right. Well, you should add that in the subtitles.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Title. Wow. So one thing that that took me back was just how these pigeons and possums, they curse like sailors. It was like I was listening to an episode of South Park. What made you decide to make these animals so potty mouthed?
Yeah, I mean, I saw them as being, longtime New Yorkers and not having time for anybody's crap, There was also a part of me that while writing it and recording it wanted to, because it was in an audio form, I kind of wanted to spoof the kind of shows that Story Pirates does, where they do these really great, musical audio dramas for kids and for families, and it's usually like very wholesome and very silly and very cartoony, and I kind of wanted to like up the profanity in mine that you start listening and you think it's going to be this thing about cute pigeons and possums and like something cartoony, but then it like gets really kind of intense and crazy and a lot of cursing and a lot of violence, and I just kind of liked the wackiness and the absurdity of that.
Definitely, like drunk story pirates, I think.
yeah, totally.
After hours, story pirates after hours when they're done.
Yeah, late, like midnight edition. Yeah.
Well, one of the sticking points that really stuck out to me when listening to it was this gang war, essentially, between the pigeons and the possums. Were you at all evoking any West Side Story vibes?
No,
I'm just projecting that.
No, I can't say I was thinking of West Side Story, but I think that the dramatic point that I wanted to get to is that nothing brings people together like a mutual hatred of something.
Right.
So I think that, this very dog eat dog or pigeon eat pigeon world out there on the streets of New York. So I saw these as two different groups of animals with the same, all wanting that pizza, but at the end of the day, it was their hatred of a particular human that brought them together and brought out the value of sharing. So
yes, hatred and pizza, the two things that every New Yorker can agree on, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, this isn't a deep piece, but at the same time, I think we can all think of times in our lives where we've been around strangers and finding out that we all hate the same things, whether it's like a crowded subway or a long line outside of wherever, and being able to like turn to the stranger next to you and be like, don't you hate this? And they're like, oh yeah, I hate this. And then you start up a conversation about it. I think that's a real thing. I think that's a real thing, that like mutual hatred of something can bring people together.
That is 1,000% true. That's great. That's great. I'm just like imagining what these animals look like fighting each other. So I want to ask about the format of the piece. So was it always intended to be an audio short? Did you ever imagine this being on stage? And if so, what do you think that would look like?
I think I imagined it being staged at one point. It was, I think it ended up initially serving as an assignment for a class when I was at NYU. Mm-hmm. And I was just trying to make it a 10-minute musical. And I think when I was writing it, I imagined how it could be staged in a really funny and absurd way. But I think when I first started, it was probably around like 2017. Okay. And it was also around that time where I was really studying audio dramas, and I think our culture was really seeing a revival of audio dramas, and with the merging of fiction podcasts, with podcasting becoming so big and a lot of people getting more into audio storytelling. Yeah. And I loved the idea of trying to form sort of like a theater troupe to be doing radio plays and audio dramas, and it took me several years to kind of figure out like what I wanted to do and what kind of pieces I wanted to write for it or produce. And I wasn't really ready to fill the shoes of an actual producer and producing other people's work. And there were some people who I reached out to about whether they'd want to be a writer for it. And some people were kind of interested, but also in the middle of their other things. So I decided to kind of just do my own thing with it. And the timeline I laid out for myself ended up being this past summer. So I just find it ironic that I was working on a fiction podcast the year of, the COVID pandemic, and with live performances of things being put on hold. I was like, oh, okay, I guess that kind of timed out well. So I thought that even before 2020 that this would translate really well as an audio drama because of how cartoony it was. It would actually be easier to do as an audio drama. You're not having to worry about a lot of the physical technicalities of it. and just the fun of like getting a bunch of very talented vocal artists and actors to be doing all the funny voices for it and all the slapstick as well. I look back on it now and I think it works better as an audio musical than as something actually staged. I think at this point, if it's staged, it might actually not be as funny. It might seem a little dumb. So I think it found the form that it needed.
Well, that's really great to hear, and it's interesting. So you had the foresight. You were looking at the potential for great audio pieces before everything had to become completely virtual. So beyond this piece, have you taken this year to work on more virtual projects, whether that be something recorded via Zoom or just more podcast musicals? Is that something you've been exploring this year?
Yeah, the main goal for this year was to get my fiction podcast on its feet. It's called Spencer Robelen Presents, and it's really just an anthology fiction podcast of short plays and musicals that I've written, and that I recruit a lot of other really talented musicians and artists to perform and help me edit. And again, I was very fortunate that I had that to work on this year. It was the perfect, quarantine project. And so I spent a lot of this year recording things virtually and editing them and figuring out how to release a podcast and all of that stuff. So I enjoyed doing it so much, and enough people listened to it, or took the time to listen to it amongst all the other things that have been going on this year. And I got some very good feedback about it. And I was like, well, I enjoyed doing this. I think I'd like to do another season and try to aim for releasing 4 more shows on the podcast next summer. So that was something that I was working on in terms of what are some shows I can do next year, what are maybe some shorter pieces I have worked on in the past that would translate well for this medium. But that being said, I've also been working on stuff that I would like to stage at some point, and that I think would be better staged as opposed to an audio format. And I'm sort of just taking the time to really take my time. I'm really taking my time with those pieces and knowing that not soon, but at some point they'll be able to be performed in front of a live audience again. And so I've been taking time to do that as well. And I think not putting the pressure on myself of like, when can this be finished? When does this need to be performed? When does stuff need to be done? Just like taking the time to make it as good as I can so that it's ready when the time does come. Right.
No, absolutely. I love that you're taking advantage of this time, because that is what a lot of people do have right now. Where the line between work and home is obviously become blurred. But with that, we have time to really sink into the projects that we're working on. That's awesome. Was the idea to come with a podcast completely independent? Do you have like a partner?
I don't. It's on me right now, and the perks of that are that I'm making the pieces I want to make and producing what I want to do. And it's like very much like my vision and recruiting the people who I want to work with and who I want to cast and who I want to perform. But it is lonely, and that hasn't helped during quarantine, when I'm already working alone, so it's a double-edged sword with any collaboration like that I'm missing that important aspect of someone being able to tell me when something's not good, but thankfully I'm the kind of person who loves hearing feedback from actors about the material I'm giving them and whether it's working for them and whether it makes sense for them. So it's still a collaboration, just not so much in the writing and producing aspect of it. I'd like to, I think, bring on some more directors next season. I was directing all of the pieces this year, and I really don't have as much experience as a director, and it's just a role that I filled out of necessity. But I think having a director in there to sort of tell you what's not working so you're not in your own head all the time is helpful. So hopefully, depending on my budget and how things pan out this year with the people I'm hoping to work with, I'm aiming for the podcast open up a little more, to include more people to collaborate with. Yes.
Great. Well, I can't wait to give it a listen, and I can't wait for the next season. You brought up two really interesting points that I want to touch on. The first is you talked about how you mentioned how you appreciate feedback. Sometimes, as a writer, as any type of creative, that can be a very hard thing to navigate receiving feedback. Do you have any tips for either seeking feedback or receiving it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think it's super difficult for everybody.
Right.
Um, Let me start by saying that as an artist, as a creator, as a writer, for me, whether I'm writing music or words, whatever I make is not so much an extent. It's not so much like me in the piece as it feels like an extension of myself, as though it were a child. So I often compare like sharing my work with other people or getting feedback on it is kind of like introducing people to your child and having people like critique your child. Like no parent wants to have a teacher come up and be like, so your child did this and that wasn't right and this and that and everything, and it's like, shut up, stop talking about my kid. And I think that's why feedback is difficult for a lot of us, because it's hard not to take it personally, and it's hard not to take it personally on something you've worked on for maybe a long period of time, and it can take you 5 years to write that musical and only 5 minutes for someone to tell you everything that's wrong with it and why it's not working. So I think what helps me with that process is, one, like trying not to take anything personally, and looking at things objectively for the piece and how it can be better. um, and I think the second part is just making sure you get feedback from people you respect, and not necessarily people who either you don't respect or who are going to tell you everything you want to hear. You want to share the work with someone who you have a good rapport with, and who knows the process you're going through and what it is you're trying to achieve, because I think the feedback that they give you is going to be the most helpful. Feedback like I didn't like it, or even feedback like I loved it, is not necessarily helpful for you to make your piece better. Feedback like the ending wasn't satisfying because of A, B, and C, or I think the first act has too many songs in it, and the second act doesn't have enough songs. More specific feedback about how to make the piece better, I think, is what everyone needs in order to improve the work. And I can't remember who said it, but I feel like it was like Ernest Hemingway, who said, feedback from people you don't respect is useless as well. And that's the same where if there's someone who you really don't like and don't respect telling you love that they loved your piece, that's just as unhelpful as someone you don't like telling you they didn't like your piece. I think feedback is just people letting you know their initial reactions to things, and then times where they were bored or times where they were confused, as a director once said.
Yeah.
And I think just you looking at it from a non-personal angle can help make it a little less painful. And also, I think taking a break from the piece, if you're able to, after receiving feedback, and letting it stew a bit, that's something that's also has also helped me process it.
No, that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Following up, can you provide perhaps an anecdote or an instance in which you received feedback from someone who you respected, and it ended up, you think, helping the work in some way, or you were able to look at your piece or maybe a section or a song through a different lens?
I can't think of anything specific that was really earth-shattering.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of very good friends and good teachers in my life whom I do respect and who I'm constantly seeking feedback from and asking them if they have the time or the energy to like look over my work. And, the feedback that has helped me the most has ranged from things like, this song sounds a little bit too much like Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King. Which is like, oh, great. I like didn't even realize I accidentally copied the melody. You know,
Yeah.
I always joke that I should hire someone to like repeatedly watch what I'm writing and let me know when I've accidentally plagiarized something. Feedback like that is helpful, as well as feedback about a time where I wrote a song from the perspective of a mother mourning the loss of her child, and I had a mother who was also a teacher of mine tell me that just how like moving and effective that song was, because she was a mother herself and was able to see details in there that she thought were very accurate to a mother's experience of losing a child, you know. And I think feedback like that is super helpful when, as a writer, you're often writing about experiences or people who you don't have any firsthand experience with yourself, you know. So it was like, how do I write a song about a mother mourning the death of her son? I can only guess, you know, or talk with people who have experienced that too. So to have someone who says like that felt accurate, that like moved me, that that touched on my experience, you know, is helpful. And likewise, the reverse of that, of someone saying like, oh, you know, you wrote a song about a divorce, and that's not how divorce works, or something like that. You know, like someone saying that you've written about an experience in an inaccurate way is also equally helpful. So again, those weren't that specific, but I think that good feedback for me, or helpful feedback for me, runs that gamut, you know, from the technical to the emotional.
I love the idea of, or the practice of, if you don't have that experience as a writer, reaching out to someone who has had that experience. Yeah, it shows that you're connecting with the piece in whole new, in different ways. Another question, switching gears a bit to collaboration. The majority of the guests on this show have been writing teams, with someone usually as the wordsmith and someone as the composer. I'm wondering if you can talk at all about your experience being both, and what that process is like for you. Does it start with a story? Does it start with a song? Does it start however the hell it comes into your head? If you could just talk a little bit about what it's like forging a musical all on your own and going on that journey.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say I have more experience as a composer lyricist, um, and then separately as a playwright. I think I've begun to like merge those two fields of mine into musical theater writing only for like the past 10 years. And for me, I guess the process is thinking about the story first, sort of outlining the story, and then selecting the musical moments in it, finding the moments where the emotions or the situations are so extreme that it's easier to be told in music, or that it should be told in music. And then when it comes to writing the songs, I try to write songs that are either either a character expressing very strong emotion, or songs that are moving the action forward. And and then specifically with songwriting, sometimes it's words first, sometimes it's music first. I feel like the majority of the time is it actually coming together at the same time. Like if I'm thinking of lyrics, I'll like be singing lyrics that might sound right. I don't know. It's kind of a bizarre, very like insular process, and I really I don't like I don't like people to like see me as I'm composing. I think I look really weird when I do it, and it's just become such a private, like my process has become a very private thing. So describing it is also difficult, but I think it works like that, where when I'm hearing or thinking of words, they can be musical a lot of the time, and I think that's why music and lyrics sometimes happen together for me. And that doesn't necessarily mean that writing a song is super easy for me, but I will say that I think the reason I prefer writing songs by myself is that it's a little bit easier for me than for me to be writing a song with someone else, because I kind of feel like I'm having to get to take my sort of strange process and put it more in sync with theirs, and the back and forth that takes, I sometimes lose my patience with, and that being said, I've had some really great collaborators who I have written musicals and songs with, and musical theater is, I think, by necessity, a very collaborative art form. But I also feel like I'm going through a phase right now where there's stories that I want to tell, and right now it's just sort of easier and more enjoyable for me to be trying to write them myself and figure out that process of doing the book and then the music and lyrics as well.
One last two-part question for you. The first is, what's next for you? You mentioned that you have your podcast second season that you're preparing. You have a couple, it sounds like you have a couple full-length musicals perhaps in the works. If you want to touch on any of that, I'm sure our audience would love to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. I don't have like an enormous amount of things I'm working on right now, but I'm the kind of person who always has that idea that's on the back burner that I'm eventually going to get to. And then like when it is time, I go like wholeheartedly into it. So I'll say that what I'm currently working on, what I'm currently prioritizing is writing the scripts for the next season of my podcast. I just finished the rough draft of the script for a 2-person musical that I'm doing the book, music, and lyrics for. And it's funny we're talking about feedback, because I just sent out a bunch of emails asking some friends if they'd be willing to read it and provide me with feedback before I start getting the music down on paper. And so that's a piece I'm excited about and that I've been working on for a little while. And there's also some other like smaller things that again are like on the back burner that I just enjoy like planning in my head of when the time is right. But I come from a classical background in terms of composition, and there's still part of me that really loves merging classical music with theatricality in a way. And there's a part of me that for a while has been wanting to work on cantata, which is normally a very classical vocal piece that is usually more performed in a concert setting, or even oratorios, which is the same thing except usually with religious text like Handel's Messiah. And there's a part of me that would love to take that genre and try to put my own modern theatrical spin on it. And I'm sure someone has done that already, but that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately too. And when I'm not working on those things, keeping my eyes and ears open for whatever will inspire me for the next thing I want to work on.
Very cool. Very cool. And can you quickly give the name of your podcast and website?
Sure. So my podcast is called Spencer Robelen Presents, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can listen to it on my website, which is spencerrobelen.com, and that's SpencerRobelen.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show with us today, Spencer.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me again. It's an honor, and we should all treat ourselves to a pizza party at some point after this year.
1,000%, yes.
Thank you so much for listening to The Latest Draft. Follow @The Latest Draft on Facebook and Instagram for updates, writing tips, and more. We'll see you next week for the first cabaret episode of Season 2. Now go start creating.